I'm going to talk a bit today about some of the opportunities that I think we actually, and some of the problems that we solve every day at TT, and how these really open the door to lots of opportunities for you, sort of irrespective of your background and your education. We're going to talk a bit today about this idea that safe is the new fast. You've heard a lot of anecdotal problems that we've had over the last couple of years, whether it's in the stock market or in the futures markets. And Terry gave me a good segue here that this is in fact a very dynamic market. Things are changing in this industry probably faster than just about any other industry, especially in the tech community. And that really presents us with a lot of opportunities, and you as well. We make software that lets professional derivatives traders, futures traders around the world access the markets. Access the markets kind of means something different for every participant, but suffice it to say, it spans the spectrum of point-and-click trading to low latency, microsecond performance trading that Terry alluded to earlier. A lot of these markets have been around for 150 plus years, but only recently, even while when most of you were already born, did someone have the bright idea, and CME was one of the first. I'm not just saying that because I'm following Terry, but to do some of these things with computers, right? So as you might imagine, screaming across a crowded pit full of people and writing things down on a piece of paper with a pencil and then giving it to your runner, which is what Terry started as, and saying, hey, go run this over to that guy that I just traded with, and then exchanging and running them back. That's not a very efficient way to do things, right? And it's obviously very error prone. And then of course the next evolutionary logical step is people said, hey, we've already got computers doing all this stuff. Why don't we start automating it, right? Because if I can get a computer to make a decision, it's certainly going to be faster than Joe, across the hall can make that decision. And suddenly then speed really became, even if it was just shaving seconds off decision making, we could probably input a lot of the same parameters we use to make these trades and just into a computer algorithm, let it do all the work for us. And so you had this sort of arms race where people were buying bigger and bigger computers. Our first trading machines were like half my height, and I'm a fairly tall person. These things were just massive. And then we all kind of realized, okay, we're all using the same Intel chips, right? It's not like we're building our own custom microprocessors. And so we realized that we're all kind of the same speed now. So then what's the next logical step? Well, let's put our computers closer to the exchanges, right? Let's literally have this scramble to the data centers around the world that we know are as close as possible to the exchanges, computers and matching engines, databases, because now we're just playing the game of how fast can my packets get from my computer to the exchanges computers. Now they're using microwave technology because they said, okay, well, actually the thing that I trade is both New York markets and Chicago markets. And as far as I know, I can't have a server in the same place at both times. So how do I get packets between those two faster than traditionally? Well, now we can start sending this data over microwave. So actually sending this through the air, shaving off a few milliseconds here and there. There are actually people now who are considering throwing up hot air balloons over the Atlantic to allow them to send data instead of going under the transatlantic undersea cables, actually through the air to shave a few milliseconds between the New York and London round trip latency. So people have gone traditionally to incredible lengths just to shave a little bit of time off just to get that edge. And these are some of the challenges that a company like TT and really everyone in this industry has to face. But something really, really interesting has happened, and both the previous speakers have alluded to this in the last year and a half, and that is that people they're still certainly spending money on being faster, but they're actually spending more money now on being safer. They're spending more money on being safer for a couple of reasons, one of which is everyone's kind of approaching the speed of light boundary, right? You can throw a lot of money at things now and only shave a few nanoseconds off, and it becomes somewhat a diminishing return. But also because there have been some very prominent, I'm sure you all know of some of the, flash crash, the Facebook IPO, the night trading problem from last year. Lots of well-publicized and well-known problems that have resulted in programs gone awry, right? You turn your robot trading machine on in a sea of other robots, bad things are going to tend to happen. And so people now want to make sure that they're staying safe at all costs. Led to some regulatory changes that a company like TT has to adhere to. Otherwise, our customers aren't going to be compliant, and they're not going to be our customers for much longer. Our users of our software want to make sure that by using our software, they're avoiding these problems in the first place. And if they can't avoid them 100%, then at least when they do happen, they're going to mitigate and stem the loss as much as possible. And that's really something that even exchanges today are investing a lot in, is not letting one rogue algo or one bad trader or bad decision to have systemic impacts across the exchange, across the markets, and really across the global financial community. And these are all really, really challenging problems to solve. Billions and trillions probably of transactions every day across all exchanges, and making sense of that and being able to interpret in real time, hey, wait a minute, this behavior is probably not right? This is probably something gone awry. And so these are the types of problems that we solve every day, or at least we try to solve every day at TT. So one of the solutions we had real quickly for this was something we called the Algo Design Lab. This is actually something I built in 2009, actually for this proprietary trading shop I had. I was feeling far too much stress than, and Terry talked about being happy. I was not happy. The money was pretty good, yes, but I worked really long hours, and I had a bunch of traders who were constantly yelling at me because they needed something running yesterday, and I still wasn't done doing it. And just the anxiety of turning these things on in the markets without fully testing them was just too much. So I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to build a tool that lets you, the traders, cut me out. Cut the middleman out. I'm going to build a tool that lets you guys design visually what your strategy is in building blocks that make sense to you. So all of these components, it's like if you can use PowerPoint and you can put together a flow chart of what you want your trade to do, I don't even need to play a role in this. And so they're able to string these blocks together. All the while behind the scenes, it's actually generating source code. So they're still getting this triple-digit microsecond performance without having to even know what programming is. And so it's really interesting because this platform, and that was kind of my initial impetus to build this, was to get these guys off my back, right? But what it's turned out, and this is kind of why this industry is so full of opportunity, is because really the intended purpose for a platform like this isn't its strongest point right now. The strongest value, the biggest value add it gives us today is it gives us a safer environment, because as the trader is building their strategies, they're getting immediate feedback. We can actually, I'll go back, we can actually call out a section of this strategy and say, hey, by the way, this thing that you just did, it might actually do something bad. It might actually do something that you didn't intend it to do. Are you sure you wanted to do this? And so there's that level of hand-holding that you just don't get otherwise. Not only was this platform not designed for this purpose, or really even for the purpose for which it's best suited now, but I didn't really even know I was going to be in this industry, and certainly not building tools like this. I actually came from the world of electronic wargaming. And the funny thing is, and the reason why it was well suited for me and for building a platform like this, was because I was building these visualization platforms for colonels, for 2- or 3-star generals in the armed forces, to conduct war games and terrorist network analysis and things like this, where there's this communication barrier between the people, the idea generators, and the folks who knew how to implement this technology and present it in a way that made sense to them. And so I was able to really synthesize a lot of these things that I had learned in this completely disparate industry, and put them to use in a way that has really had some pretty big ramifications in the futures world. Chances are, 10 years from now, you're not going to be doing what you thought you'd be doing. You may or may not be in financial services, you may or may not be in technology, but chances are you're not going to be doing exactly what you thought you're going to be doing, and I think that's okay. And I think, kind of going with the flow as your career progresses can be a really valuable thing, and it certainly has been rewarding for me. We're a pretty narrow company. We do a fairly narrow thing, but we still have folks, in obviously the traditional software development roles, engineers, testers, support, business analysts, the folks who have all the business expertise and are telling us what new products and what new features to add, a global support team, product managers. But the interesting thing, and this really gets back to where this industry has come now from a technology standpoint, where nothing fast is happening on client computers anymore. So why do we need anything more than a website to really allow a user to interface with all of this automation that's happening on the back end, in the servers, in those dark rooms that are connected to the exchanges? And so now we're looking, for the first time ever, a company like TT, we're hiring web designers, we're hiring web developers, user experience researchers. If you look around at any of our competitors, including us for that matter, trading screens tend to look the same, right? I think that's to our detriment. And so for the first time, we're really taking a step back and saying, let's look at the ergonomics of this type of software. We're throwing more and more at today's trader with automation, with all these bells and whistles and stuff happening all over the place. Let's take a step back and actually look at the usability of these things. And so, roles like designers and UX researchers, things that traditionally you wouldn't see in this industry, are now a very hot priority for us at TT. So really, no matter if you're a tech background or not, there's certainly no lack of opportunity.